Okay, here we go. All right. We kind of touched upon this off the top, but let's just do a little bit of a quick dive on it again. Phil Blunt says, what are the Flames going to do with Kuzmenko? There's no way they're not signing this guy. Boy, Phil, to be blunt with you, I don't really know. I don't really know. They've got time to play with here. He has had one hell of a run here with the Flames. He's scoring at half a goal per game pace. He's got 13 goals in 26 games with the Flames. It just comes down to his age. It comes down to what he's going to want. This guy's 28 years old. He'll be 29 when his next contract kicks in. Does he want to take a 2-year deal? Because if so, I'd sign him. But if he wants to take a 6-year deal, I'd say, you know what? We're going to trade you for the best thing we can get.
He is shooting 26%.
Yeah.
Almost nobody is a regular 26% player. He's on a hell of a heater. When he was asked to play defense in Vancouver, he was a 13% player shooting. He's a 26% shooting player right now. Even shooting 26%, he's minus 10. He is, I'll be very mean here, he's one-dimensional. When he's on a heater, he's fantastic at that one dimension. But it's just a question of how much do you want to spend on a power play specialist?
Yeah, I mean, he's Rene Bourque. He's a transitional player. And that's not just to say that he's good in transition in the neutral zone, but he is a player for the transition of this franchise. And he is going to fill a gap, and there is nothing wrong with that. Many players have been compensated very handsomely for filling gaps. The Flames have paid many players to do just that. I think back to the mid-2010s when they had Lee Stempniak do just that for them for a couple of seasons. They had Mike Camilleri come back and do that for them for a few seasons. And Bourque was here for a while. They traded him for Camilleri in the end. But talk about a guy who was streaky, who had oodles of skill, maybe a bit of a better shooter than Kuzmenko is, but really, when it comes down to it, Kuzmenko has turned into quite the good finisher in the end of it, because you look at last year when he had 39 goals, his shooting percentage last year, I think, was 28%.
23.
So
27.
Yeah. So you think about it, unless, Kate, here, there are two outcomes that I see here, two possibilities. Either Andrei Kuzmenko is the best finisher in NHL history. Either he is outstanding at scoring goals to a rate that exceeds even that of Alex Ovechkin. And he was just on a slump earlier this year. Rick Tocchet didn't quite jive with him, but when he's deployed, probably he's the best shooter ever. Or he's going to start going down a little bit here pretty quick. And there's nothing wrong with that. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's something where I would be wary of saying, okay, Andrei, we've seen you score 13 goals in 26 games with us. Now we want to put pen to paper. I think back to when Alexander Semin played with the Carolina Hurricanes after he was let go by the Capitals. He had a huge year with them. It was a lockout shortened season, so it was a smaller sample of games. He parlays that into a 5-year deal with the Hurricanes, and they ended up getting nothing for him. And after the first year, they probably could have sold him at a high and gotten something crazy. He played 20 games with Montreal after that, and he was out of the league. And he went over to metallurgical school in Russia. So it's something where with Kuzmenko, do you want to do the same thing?
How dare you disrespect the fine people of Magnitogorsk?
Magnitogorsk. Well, no. I'm saying he. I think Alexander Semin went to study metallurgy in Russia. Like I don't know if he played for Metallurg Magnitogorsk. I think he went to a school for metallurgy. You can look this up. Alexander Semin. He was studying this. I just remember this story coming in. I think that was after he retired. But either way, I mean, he was not in the NHL.
Yeah, honestly, if he ends up walking, if you just keep him on the contract he's in now for another year, he walks at the end of the year, you look at it and go, okay, you got a couple years, you got some gains out of a guy that may or may not have helped you. All right, you needed to fill a role anyway. Good for you. And if you can turn it into something, either you keep him at a rate you like or you flip him for something. I think there's value to be had there. I think it's just a question of what they perceive the value to be. But he's been good so far, and for a team that the power play has been, I think, calling it pedestrian and be extremely polite early in the season. It was below pedestrian. It was just downright awful. They're downright fun to watch right now. And, if you can figure out how to bottle that up and bring it to the next season and figure out a way to divvy it out a bit more evenly, maybe there's a conversation to be had.
Yeah, I think undeniably he has made their power play better. And I just want to address a couple of comments here because I think they're bringing up good points that I just want to touch upon here quickly because we gotta get off the show. We're going a little bit late here, but just two things that people have said. I don't think it's analytics to say that you don't necessarily, if you're a retooling, rebuilding team, you don't necessarily want to sign a 29-year-old player to a long-term contract. I don't think it's any different than with Elias Lindholm and Noah Hanifin. And I understand Kuzmenko is performing far better right now than Elias Lindholm ever did in his last 2 seasons with the Flames, I would say. But at the same time, you have to really make that equation in your head. If it's between 2, 3 years or 6 years, if it's 2, 3, I can see the case for it. 100%, I can totally understand why you would want to do it. 6 years, that's where I jump off the bandwagon. I'm not on that at all.
If you're signing somebody to longer than 3 years, you have to, in my philosophy, you have to sort of see them as part of your core. You have to be like, hot damn, we're like when you sign Mark Giordano or wherever, like when Mark Giordano, I think it was like 29 or 30 when they signed to his big deal. He was, they signed him to a multi-year, multi-million dollar contract and basically said, this is the guy we're building our blue line around. And okay, yeah, that made sense. Based on where he was and what he'd done performance-wise, they said, this is our guy, and they built around him. And so the idea would be like, okay, everything else is going to orbit around this guy. If you're signing Andrei Kuzmenko or anyone else to a multi-year deal like that, I think you need to justify it as this is the guy we're building around. And, if you're not signing for that long, the message is we don't think he's the guy. And, there's plenty of very good hockey players who just aren't guys that teams want to build around. It's not that they're bad. It's just that you have to make your choices. If you look at the Flames, I mean, look at the blue line they have. They're going to build that. They've made the decision to build their blue line around Mackenzie Weegar. And right now, okay, yeah, that seems fine. I don't think they figured out their forward group yet, but,
No.
still working on it.
The other thing that I just want to say is, there's somebody saying if they trade Kuzmenko, they might never find another point per game player to replace him. My saying is he's not a point per game player. He's never been a point per game player. He's not currently a point per game player with the Flames, even though he's currently shooting 23%. He is currently at his greatest output of the season. This is a guy who was a healthy scratch in Vancouver 2 months ago. And quite frankly, if the Flames are unable to draft a point per game player in this current retool, they have failed. That's not going to be changed by trading or keeping Kuzmenko. It's non-negotiable. You have to find those top players at the top end of the draft. And if you don't, then you got to restart anyway. So I think personally, what I would do, I would look at it as if it's a short term, I keep it. If not, I trade them for whatever I can get. At this rate, maybe you can get a second round pick and they could use more of those. And then I just try and build through the draft. I try and get those point per game players because with the way that scoring is going up in the league right now, 150 points is the new 120, 100 assists is the new 70, 82 points is the new 60. So it's not really the same economy anymore. A player like Kuzmenko who scores a lot, you really have to examine what else he provides. And with the way that things are going, it's just tough.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.